The moment I realized time wouldn't forgive me didn't arrive loudly. It came quietly, almost politely, and by the time I understood what it meant, it was already too late. My name is Samuel, and I'm 88 years old, and there's one ordinary afternoon that divided my life into before and after. I grew up believing time was generous. Not infinite, of course, but flexible, stretchable. I thought if you worked hard, stayed responsible, and kept your promises, time would wait its turn. It took me most of my life to learn that time doesn't wait for anyone, no matter how well you behave. I was raised in a house where urgency was respected. My father believed in early mornings and late nights. My mother believed love was shown through consistency, not words. Nobody ever sat me down to talk about feelings, but nobody ever missed a meal either. That's how I learned to live. You show up. You keep going. You handle what's in front of you. I married young. We didn't have much, but we had plans, and back then, plans felt just as good as having the thing itself. We told ourselves we'd slow down later, enjoy each other later, travel later, talk more later. Later felt dependable, like a savings account you could always withdraw from. Life, of course, didn't ask permission. Children came, bills came, responsibilities stacked themselves neatly one on top of another. I worked, then worked more. Not because I loved it, but because it felt like the right thing to do. Providing became my language. Exhaustion became normal. Silence filled the spaces where conversations used to be. The years moved faster than I noticed. Birthdays turned into numbers that didn't mean much until they suddenly did. My wife and I spoke about logistics more than dreams. We were never unkind to each other, just busy. And busyness has a way of feeling productive even when it's quietly eroding something important. The moment came when I was 67. I remember because it was unremarkable in every way except one. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special about the weather, nothing special about the calendar. My wife had been feeling tired for weeks, and I kept telling myself we'd get it checked when things slowed down, when work eased up, when the current project finished. That afternoon I came home later than usual. She was sitting at the kitchen table, hands folded, looking smaller than I remembered. She smiled at me, the same polite smile she'd worn more often in recent years, and said she thought something wasn't right. I listened, but only halfway. I reassured her. I told her we'd make an appointment. I told her not to worry. I went to bed that night believing I had done enough. 3 months later, she was gone. I won't describe the illness. That part doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that when I replay my life in my mind, that afternoon stretches longer than it should. Not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. I didn't sit down. I didn't ask the second question. I didn't put my hand over hers and stay there. Time didn't punish me. It didn't shout or accuse. It simply kept moving, and I was the one left behind, holding all the things I thought I'd get to later. Grief doesn't always feel like sadness. Sometimes it feels like clarity that arrives too late to be useful. I began to see how many moments I had postponed, how many conversations I had delayed, how often I treated presence like something optional. After she died, the house became very quiet. Not peaceful, just empty. I found myself talking out loud sometimes, narrating my movements as if she were still listening. I realized then how much of my life had been built on the assumption that she would always be there to hear me eventually. Time had other plans. As the years passed, I watched my children grow older. They had their own lives, their own urgencies. I recognized the pattern immediately. They loved me, but they were busy. I didn't blame them. I had taught them that this was what adulthood looked like. I learned something uncomfortable in my 70s. Regret doesn't come from bad decisions alone. It comes from the small, reasonable ones you repeat for decades. The choice to wait, the choice to assume, the choice to believe there will be another chance because there usually has been before. Now, at 88, my days are slower. Pain reminds me of my body more often than I'd like. Memories arrive without invitation. Some make me smile, others sit heavy in my chest. I don't try to push them away anymore. I let them speak. If I could tell you one thing, it wouldn't be to hurry through life. Speed isn't the problem. Inattention is. The danger isn't that time runs out suddenly, it's that it runs out quietly while you're making sensible plans for later. If there's someone you've been meaning to sit with, don't wait for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. If there's there's a conversation you've been postponing because it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient, understand that discomfort is temporary, but absence is permanent. Time doesn't forgive because it doesn't remember. It simply moves forward, leaving us to make sense of what we carried and what we set down. I've lived a long life, longer than I ever expected, and when I look back, the moments that matter aren't the ones I prepared for, but the ones I almost missed. I hope you don't wait as long as I did to notice which moments those are.